So my presentation will be on prison reform, as you can see here. And I chose prison reform because I feel like it is a major problem not only in the United States, but also in the entire world. I believe that we are not doing all we can to help rehabilitate prisoners and give them a second chance at life, and that's really just ultimately causing us all to pay more money in taxes because we have to keep re-incarcerating members of society who could be productive. We're just not giving them the chance to be because we're not offering rehabilitation and we're not offering what Jesus preached of forgiveness and second chances. He didn't want people to be condemned in earth. I mean, God is the final, God has a place for us at final judgment and does not have to do, we don't belong punished on earth. Also, I believe that, in the Catechism teaches that anger and revenge is not the answer. You cannot punish out of anger and revenge. And a lot of times, I think that certain crimes are punished more heavily than what is needed. And obviously, a victim's family has the right to be upset and to want justice and punishment for whatever crime this person may have committed. But things such as the death penalty that's not the answer. You can't fix death with more death. You can't fix death with more pain and suffering. These people will get their judgment from God. They do not need to be tortured and punished on earth. They deserve to serve time for their crimes, but they don't deserve pain in prisons. They don't deserve death. And along with the pain in prisons, I think making prison atmospheres safer would be very helpful and productive because prison environments are very dangerous. They're very hostile. With rehabilitation and prison ministry and stuff like that to help take their minds off of being surrounded by other people that have committed crimes and just the potential dangers there and the tension being so high. I really believe, and studies show, that the tensions will drop. Everybody is something better than the worst thing that they've ever done, and they don't deserve to not eternally, because not eternal life, they'll get their punishment from God in the final judgment, but they don't deserve pain and suffering, even if they caused pain and suffering. It's not our place to make somebody else's life hard. And obviously, harmful behaviors need to be corrected in order to keep the entire society more peaceful and more productive, and not allowing other members of society to kill one another. But with that as the fact, a lot of the people that are in prison are not in prison for violent crimes. And while they might need punishment, they also need a chance to get back out of there. Violent crimes and drug crimes are very different things. And while, they're all hurting the greater community, I don't believe, and I don't think a lot of people believe, that drug offenders and sex offenders or murderers all deserve the same type of sentencing. We need to correct them. We don't need to just lock them in a room. Correcting them meaning offering prison ministry, offering them an outlet to express how they feel and connect somewhere spiritually. Meaning rehabilitation, if they need counseling, if they need therapy, if they need to be clean from drugs, not just cutting them off cold turkey, because that is really, really, really hard on somebody's mental and physical self. That includes education. I think education is incredibly important because a lot of the times these people are winding up in jail because they have no guidance from God or from the school system. They're struggling, they don't know where to turn, and they wind up in jail because they've committed to a life of crime rather than a life of productivity. Education will really allow people to get better jobs potentially, because it is really difficult for prisoners to get jobs, but with an education, more people are looking for people with college degrees than they are just high school GEDs and such. So I think an education would be incredibly important for getting people to stop recommitting crimes and to get them out of the prison system. So right here are some more specific ways. I had ideas that have been talked about such in articles such as like articles produced by like the New York Times has talked about, and studies have shown that improving the lives of prisoners while they're incarcerated gives a turnaround time, or it lessens the turnaround for people to be back into prison. So if we're giving them ministry in prison, regardless of faith, it could be non-denominational, it could be Catholic, it could be Christian, but probably best to be non-denominational so everyone has a chance to express their faith and still hear the Word of God given to them. It allows them to connect spiritually to one another and to God and try and get back in connection to who they're meant to be. It's really important when you have nothing and no one else to have a connection with God, and I think a lot of times these men and women don't have anything left in their lives. A lot of times their families have cut them off, or they didn't have families to begin with, and they just feel really alone. And giving them a connection, like a ministry, that offers them an outlet, and it builds community among maybe other prisoners in their specific jail, to connect with each other about their faith and to connect to the pastor or whoever is providing them with this. It gives them maybe a positive influence or person of authority to look up to because they're used to the harshness of just guards. It's ideal for everyone to be productive in society, which we know that not everybody is really meant to have a big, great, grand job, but everybody should be able to get a job, and it needs to be made easier for people to try and get a second chance. Second chances are important for everyone. Everybody makes mistakes, and if people aren't given a second chance to be productive, then it's going to be really hard for them to not reoffend because they don't have any other way to make money. There's this article of this man who was 35 and he had gotten released after being in jail for many years. He hadn't even graduated college or high school. He had no GED, he had no cell phone, he had no clothes, he had nothing, and was just released back on the streets. What is a person like that supposed to do? They have nowhere and no one to turn to. Giving them sources and outlets in prison to help make their life better is going to help them to be productive when they get out of jail. Give them at least a GED education or offer it to them. Maybe there's systems that need to be worked out to where they can get an education and they can pay back that education afterwards, after they get out of jail and after they get a real job. This video that I'm going to show you next actually kind of is what gave me the idea about how I feel about Christian ministry in prison systems, because a lot of these men have never really had a father figure to look up to, like I said earlier. And I think that the prison systems using Christian ministry to kind of build this father figure helps build especially men into better men after jail. And women, it just gives them a connection. Like, it might not be building them into better men, but it's building them into better people, just like Christianity does to many people.
impressed with everyone that's here tonight because every one of you have made a commitment to go through the entire 10-week course in the Stepping Up program.
Guys, we've been on an incredible journey, 10 weeks, and here we are tonight at our graduation. Tonight is a turning point. What are they going to say about you? What does the end look like? Let's watch session 10.
I've been a state chaplain for about 13 or 14 years. I have known for many, many years the absence of father in many of these inmates' lives when they were growing up has brought us to a place where a lot of our guys are not really learning what it means to be a man.
Through this 10-week program with Stepping Up, they've learned that they can change their lives. And this has given them an opportunity and a roadmap to do that.
Just to see the tears in their eyes, and as they break into small groups, watch them discuss the things that they've seen each week, it's just powerful.
It lets them know that somebody cares for them. There's a lot of guys in here whose families are maybe giving up on them.
My name is Glenn Cole. I've been incarcerated now 17 and a half years. You know, we have our own definition of what man is, but since I've been in the Stepping Up program, I have really understood what manhood is really all about. I made a decision that I was gonna make a stand and be a courageous man and walk with Jesus Christ. No matter what my friends think, my family think, I was gonna do that. Now since I know the definition of what a man really is, that's what I'm gonna be.
My name's Doug Wilson. I've been incarcerated for more than 20 years now. You see, when I was growing up, my dad didn't know how to be a spiritual leader. And I never got to hear my dad pray. And that's one thing I always wondered, what would my dad have sounded like if I ever heard him pray?
I think like a lot of men in here who haven't had dads or the proper father figure, this program has shown me how to step up and get out of this bondage, to love others. That is what we're called to do.
I have my own interpretation of what a man was, but as I continued to go through this program, I actually learned that I was the furthest thing from a man. Thank y'all for showing me the direction and how to be a better husband, a better father, and a better person as a man.
My father and my stepfather taught me a lot of good things in life, but the one thing they didn't teach me is the steps that it took to go from being a child to a patriarch. And that's what this program has done to me, was show me the steps that I need to take.
My name is Patrick Davis. I've been incarcerated for 5 years. And what I'm about to say may sound crazy to some of you all, and it may not, but I just want to thank God for being here.
When I seen the Stepping Up program and the people that turned out, the word come alive to me in that area, that all men, you have a calling.
My name is Kenny Dornhofer. Never had a father that was around. Dennis Rainey gave me an example of what a man is.
I'm 22 years of age, and I've always been searching for a guide to be a man. And this program and this class has helped us.
I thought I had a plan. I thought I had a vision, and I thought I was providing for my family. But I guess I wasn't, because I end up in a situation like this. But by me going through this program and going through this book, now I have a plan.
Today I want to cut the cycle, and I want to be a better dad for my children, and so they don't have to go through the same thing.
And many of us have learned, to be true with ourselves, to have integrity and honesty, and to step up and accept the very things within us that we've dealt with maybe for decades. Thank the Lord for what He's done in all our lives.
With all that being said, everyone continue to step up and do what's right, because we have little ones out there that look up to us.
And here is the quote by Chuck Colson I leave you guys with. Remain at your post and do your duty for the glory of God and His kingdom.
So this next video is also about rehabilitation, but in a different manner. It's more about education rather than ministry, but I think that they're both just as important in making someone a full person to return back to society healthy and happy and productive.
What's up, guys? How you doing? Now, we're talking about what we're doing right here, right now. We're not talking about the past. We're putting everything else that happened before this moment behind us. 95% of these incarcerated men and women are returning to the community, with 68% returning back to prison in the first 3 years. There's a dichotomy here that we're struggling to fix. This is a country that's built on second chances, but it ends at the prison system. There's a huge amount of guilt with the men and women that have gone to prison. But through this college program that we've created, they're realizing that they can take their future and really make it very different than what they've seen in the past, because education is giving them those tools. As someone that went to prison, I know firsthand that this is one of the key components to helping fix this problem. When I was 16 years old, I shot and killed a person, and I received a 24-year sentence for that. When I tried to wrap my head around the fact that I took a human life, the world got really small really quickly. And while I was sitting there thinking about how I failed everybody, one of the officers came to my cell, and he just said to me, "Is there any chance I could get you to help me work with some of the other men?" At that point in my life as a teenager, I thought I had no value at all. But as the older men pulled me on the side and said, "Man, I heard you can help me. You're one of the most educated guys around." So I began to read to these men in an effort to get them to learn to read and write. And you fast forward 19 years later, and we have 588 students, 6 sites. It's incredible, and it was all born and came right out of this place. The students will talk about this education. They talk about it being a new lens, and how that new lens gives them a way to look at the world in a different way that they've never known even existed.
I'm 4th generation male incarcerated in my family. I took my gift for numbers to become a drug dealer. I took my gift of gab to negatively peer pressure other people into getting in the game with me. The education was very important because I didn't realize the connection between what I already knew, my natural talents, and success.
We want to work with the student that everyone else has given up on. This is an accredited degree-granting college program. Their degree does not say University of Sing Sing. It says Nyack College. It says Mercy College. It says Columbia University. I have seen the rippling effect of that one degree as it goes into their families, their children, their neighbors, their community. We are truly helping the community through this one person and this one degree. And we're looking at a very
After all, Jesus preached redemption and forgiveness. Half of Jesus' closest friends and disciples were criminals. And he accepted them for who they were and changed their lives for the better. He wants the outcasts. The outcasts want him. Like, deep down, everybody wants a connection with God. But I think these people that feel the most alone and the most badly about the things that they have done really could make a deep connection while they're in jail, and it could help them get their lives straightened out and figured out for the better.
It's given us a tremendous visible sign and ministry of what it means to actually care for people who are incarcerated. This is, by the way, throughout his whole life. Many of us have known and followed that he's done things like have Holy Thursday Mass in prison, but it's even said that to this day, every other Saturday, he will call prisoners he used to visit in Argentina still to talk to them every other Saturday, even as Pope. And this is a great witness to us and a testimony to us. When he comes, it's going to be a pastoral encounter. And it's an opportunity, I think, for all of us, not just Catholics, but all people of goodwill, to actually take in mind again some people we might not always think about. To those who end up in those places where they're often forgotten or set aside. And it's rooted in Pope Francis's vision of mercy. He's often said when he goes to a prison or a jail that I've made decisions We've all made decisions. If we made different decisions, we could be right there. That could be me. The bishops, the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, has been concerned about the issue of reform in the area of the criminal justice system for a long time. In the year 2000, they wrote a pastoral letter, and I'd like to just read from this pastoral letter, Responsibility, Rehabilitation, and Restoration. The bishops wrote, and these are words that could just as well be coming out of Pope Francis's mouth, "Just as God never abandons us, so too must we be in covenant with one another. We're all sinners, and our response to sin and failure should not be abandonment and despair, but rather justice, contrition, reparation, and the return of all into the community." This is the vision that motivates the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops and our religious partners to advocate on behalf of victims of crime and those in prison.
This is something that we have often talked about. It's been on our radar for a long time. How do we reform the criminal justice system so that we can have a much more fair and welcoming back into the community system?